All right, guys, so yesterday I did a landscape type drawing, and today I think I'm going to try doing a cityscape. I still want it to look kind of hazy and atmospheric, and although, with cityscapes there's a lot of straight lines and geometric shapes, I'm going to go for something that still looks organic and atmospheric. This process, if you're going to start doing subtractive type drawing like this, you guys just make sure you're wearing a mask or something, to protect your lungs. You don't want to be breathing in all this stuff. So I do want to make sure that I'm wiping off as much of this excess charcoal powder, because it can interfere with my drawing process. So I'm going to start by blocking in my lighter colors, and I'm just looking at areas that, like, this is going to be the sky or part of the sky, that are going to be lighter. Not really worried about details. That's what makes charcoal drawing fun. It's just very loose way of drawing. These erasers, I'm using a kneaded eraser, and I definitely got a bad batch. And because they're like very crumbly, they're not as sticky as they normally are, and I've ordered from this company before and I've never had issues. All right, so I'm gonna continue blocking in these lighter areas. We'll put the shoreline like somewhere down here. Doesn't have to be perfectly straight. And I'm thinking that I could probably put like some kind of path, like along this line right here. Maybe both sides. Right. Okay, so I know that's where my shoreline is, and I'm still not sure if this is going to be like a lake or a river. We'll see how it plays out here. But I do need to reflect this side here. So I'm going to lighten up this area here. So my last drawing video was like 50 minutes long. It was pretty long, around there, 50 minutes or so. And I don't know how the YouTube algorithm's gonna respond to that, or people, I should say, because I feel like in today's age, short form content is everything. To be honest, I'm not really doing it for like views or anything. This is something that I've always done. Trying to reflect or kind of like copy what's up there down here. Again, I'm not really trying to be too detailed. That's not the goal here. We want to keep this loose. So I got most of this stuff blocked in, and now I'm going to start well, as far as the lighter areas. So now I'm going to right now I'm going to add some of the dark areas, and there's going to be a lot of dark, buildings in the background. So there's going to be a lot of smudging. As you guys know, typically the stuff in the foreground is a lot darker or more colorful if you're using color, and clear, So I'm just gonna add some dark areas here and do it down here too, since it's reflecting. This will be, I don't know, just a group of buildings grouped together maybe. Let your imagination kind of fill it in. I want to add some trees too, more like in the foreground somehow. So I'll probably just add them like here and maybe here. Maybe add some skyscrapers back here. Or hints of skyscrapers. I don't want to make them too dark because I gotta look kind of far away. So while I'm doing this, I'm also considering composition. I mean, I'm editing out the parts where I'm stepping back, but I like step back and kind of size up my drawing and just fill in some areas where I feel like it needs it. It needs a darker spot or darker thing. So weird, but right now it looks like almost like a post-apocalyptic scene. And I'm gonna do the same down here. Just try to kind of copy these buildings a little bit. Now the messy part, the smudging. So I'm just smudging and trying to darken this whole area, like even it out. Not really going for details. This is still building up layers. I know this whole area is going to be dark, and you know, because there's buildings. I just really like the textures, you know. Just has this raw kind of feel to it. When I first started really like getting into drawing, I went for like hyperrealism, right? And I did eventually develop the skill to do some really hyper-realistic stuff. It takes practice, I'll tell you that. It's a skill that you can definitely develop. And it's one thing that I don't get with my hyper-realistic type artwork is the freedom, you know, to all these different textures. For the most part, like copying something either from a photo or like a still life, and I'm trying to copy exactly what I see. Whereas with this, I'm just letting my imagination just kind of dictate what I want. And of course, I don't have photographic memory where I can have exact crystal clear images in my head. This is what I think a cityscape would look like with water, either river or lake. It's looking more like a lake right now. It's not a specific town or a real place. Okay, so that kind of looks like buildings and body of water reflecting the buildings. So I want to go back and just kind of soften up some of the background a little bit. These buildings that are in the background, because they're supposed to be further back, so I just have like a piece of tissue. And it's gonna lighten these up. Again, there's like very little detail. It's more about shapes and anything. I do appreciate realism type art though, and the artists that do that, because it's just a different feeling, different sense of satisfaction that you get from drawing like hyper realistic type artworks, you know. Definitely not one of those artists that knocks them or judges them as that art, you know, as far as like trying to say it's not real art or anything. For me it is. For me it's definitely art. It's just different. But so is this stuff. It's so weird because I loved growing up the hyper realistic type art, and I also liked the old like Renaissance kind of paintings. That was like my first love when it came to art. But I also liked abstract, and I feel like abstract artists get a lot of hate. But there was just something about them that I was just drawn to it. It was the questions, actually, I think, because I would ask like, why do they, you know, put this line here, or what made them decide to just put this random blotch of paint or whatever here. I was trying to dissect their process and had so many questions. And it wasn't until I like tried it for myself where I realized like, oh, it's not about why, it just happens. And even though they might have an idea, I feel like in their head, I feel like a lot of times it just kind of happens. And that just kind of made me appreciate the whole style of art more. Just trying to kind of copy the top a little bit. So because it's water, if you guys are going to try drawing this, I'm just kind of going from side to side. You know, I'm not going to draw in every ripple, but this will kind of help me, or, you know, it'll help it look like the water ripples are going horizontal. If you guys are stuck right now, like on developing your drawing style or your art style, and you're just not sure what your style is, or you're still in that discovery phase, I definitely recommend trying charcoal. It's just so different. You know, it's simple, forces you to like feel a lot. I feel like, I don't necessarily mean in the like in an emotional aspect, but maybe that too, but definitely like it's just really hands-on. Maybe just the way I'm doing charcoal drawings, very hands-on. So I gotta get this darker here. Maybe it's like somewhere over here. I'm just gonna hint at it. I'm not gonna, something like that. So if you ever like touch an eraser, especially a kneaded eraser, and then you know, because it's like sticky, and then you go and try to rub a dark area, it does that. It'll like lift it, just a heads up. No worries, because I can just darken this up again. I do want to add some trees and stuff later on, so maybe I should just do some of these kind of vertical dark strokes with the charcoal for the trees later. All right, so now I want to make certain areas of the sky like lighter, and my kneaded eraser can only lift so much. So I got this big old eraser here, and I feel like adding like these kind of really highlighted areas will just make the drawing like really pop. It's part of the whole composition thing. I think it was looking fine the way it was too though, but I want to try adding some really lighter areas, and then just see what it does. I can always smudge it back to a more neutral kind of, or not as bright area if I don't like it. And it's just going to be like here, you know, like if it's like a sunset or sunrise, just like that. And I'm gonna blend that into. It looks pretty cool like that, though. It almost looks like fire, like flames. But I still want this whole image to have like a soft kind of look, so I'm gonna soften it just a little bit. And I'm gonna do the same down here. Stick to the horizontal method down here for those ripples. This is a pretty big eraser. I'm only going to use this for like these big areas. Trying to add a little more texture to this so it looks nicer, like there's maybe a little fog or something between the trees. So now, as Bob Ross would say, I'm going to add some little happy trees. And I don't think it's light enough for the branches to show, so I'm just going to try to just lightly lift some of that dark areas here. I have to do the same on that side, because I really do want some trees to show. And I'm not, again, it's not going to be detailed. It's just going to be like these almost like random squiggly or lines, you know, vertical lines. Just hinting at trees. This is going to be like one of those things where people probably won't even notice until they get like really up close that there's some branches or trees kind of in there. But that's kind of part of this whole experience, is I want people to look closer. So we're going to say this is like a long path that kind of goes down the city over here. And that just came out a little too dark. So I'm going to lighten it up. Try a piece of tissue first. Also have this little Tombow Mono Zero eraser. I love this thing for like erasing tiny little areas. Next thing I want to do is add some lights. I want to add like a glow, and like here, I think. I'm not sure if this is going to be able to cut through. Oh, I guess it can. Cut through this dark area here. There you go. It's kind of what I wanted, just a glow. Almost like there's a path. And there's some either light posts or some kind of lanterns. And I'm just kind of just adding them along this little area here. This is going to be my path. Kind of following the rules of perspective and kind of not. And I really don't see anywhere else that I want to add like details, you know. I'm going for simplicity. I want this video to be for like beginners. All right, so I think, yeah, it looks done to me. Again, we talked about before how I can keep working on this. If I continue working on it, I'm just going to keep adding more and more details, and I don't want a realistic looking drawing. I want it to look loose and organic. So yeah, at some point, I think all of us artists struggle with calling something done. You know, we just don't know when it's done. It's just, at some point you just leave it. All right. That is it. A very atmospheric cityscape charcoal drawing.